Great. Hi, everybody. Kris is just joining me. Hi, Kris.
What's going on, Taylor?
Thanks so much for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, girl.
Okay. Well, I feel like you don't even really need an introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway. I'm Taylor Vanderwell. I am the head of operations at StoriiCare. We've really been looking forward to this session. We've got something special lined up for you. So I'm really thrilled to be joined by Kris Chana. Some of you probably already know or at least follow him online. Kris is an entrepreneur and operator of the ActivAge daytime senior care, but he's done so much in the senior care world and has a really valuable wealth of experience, especially when it comes environments more engaging, efficient, and really person-centered. He's done incredible work in adult day and beyond, and he's really passionate about helping others do the same. So today's conversation is going to be about kind of the future of adult daycare, practical ideas, inspiration, what's working well right now in the space. So whether you're just considering running a program or you're a seasoned veteran in adult day, I'm sure Kris will provide um, some ideas for you to grow and some great key takeaways. So let's dive in. I'll hand things over to you. Please, just a few housekeeping things. If you have questions that you want to ask Kris, feel free to put those in the Q&A box or the chat box below, and we'll save some time at the end. Kris loves Q&A, so I'll probably pick people and allow you to talk so that we can actually have a conversation going, but we'll get that towards the end.
Awesome. Hey, Taylor, thank you. And quick question for you. Can I see them or the view I'm in, they're like, is everyone like, so I can see you, but can I
You
see
can
them at all? Okay.
I don't think you'll be able to see them. I
Okay.
think
Got it.
things are cameras off, but
I was just trying to,
yeah.
read the room just in case
Yeah.
like I started like, boring someone or whatever, but
I
no,
love it.
I appreciate it. Well, I'll go ahead and then I'll share a screen, get into the webinar if that works for you guys. Okay,
Absolutely. Yep.
cool. Let me know how this is looking on your guys' end. I don't, let me see. All right, how's
I
this
can
looking?
see.
Can you guys see it?
Yep. You're
Okay.
good.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all joining. For all those that are on the call, I think about 32 people, which is fantastic. Thank you, StoriiCare, for allowing me the opportunity to be here. I apologize for anyone that had originally planned on joining us on Wednesday due to a scheduling conflict that my team made me aware of. They're like, Kris, how are you going to be doing this call when you have this other thing? I'm like, oh, you're right. So, anyways, thank you for your patience and for just going with the flow and joining us here on Thursday instead. Um, Obviously, for those that may not know, I'm super passionate about adult day. My goal for today is to get through this presentation in about 30 minutes and give us about 30 minutes of Q&A, so we can maybe answer some specific questions that you guys might have. So I'll try to keep us on track. We'll see how it goes. But of course, just want to say thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to spend time with you guys. So that being said, for those that may not know, I didn't just get into adult day. Originally, I actually started in assisted living, and my wife and I, at the time in this picture, I was 23, my wife was 21, and our dog Dallas was about 2 or 3 years old, and we bought this abandoned assisted living facility. You can see in the pictures in the top left that that's what I walked into on like a few days after we had closed on the building. I remember sending Chelsea these pictures of the space, and she was like, "What did you get us into?" um, it was a lot of work. I mean, Chelsea and I actually painted the entire interior of this space, which was like a 6,000 square foot building, 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms. It was a massive project, but we had never been in senior care before. Like literally, like took a flyer on this opportunity, and never had cared for anyone with dementia, never had been in the senior care world. I had graduated with a degree in finance, so this was all completely new to me. Um, but it was one of the best experiences ever because when Chelsea and I started this, we lived in this building. And if you can see on the bottom left, can you see my cursor, Taylor, or is it just the presentation? I don't know if, okay. So, anyways, there's this little room right here, this little window. That was Chelsea and I's bedroom. We had like literally like a room that was like just big enough to barely fit a queen bed, a dresser, and like enough space for Dallas to lay down. We had a bathroom, and that was how we started our marriage. We literally had gotten married, moved into this place, and started here. As you see to the right, some of those photos were after a few years after our renovations, and we really turned this what was a really kind of a dump, I guess, into a beautiful beach cottage. But this is where I learned everything about taking care of people. And if you see in the top left hand corner here, or in this bottom right hand corner with this lady, her name was Sarah. She was our first resident, and she had pretty advanced stages of dementia. And I remember, when she first moved in, every 5 minutes she, wanted to know why she was here. She wanted to go home. She was like, really confused. And I remember, this was my first encounter with folks with dementia, and I feel like Sarah taught me everything I know today about dementia, and she really helped me understand how to to navigate those conversations and redirect and really help maybe create peace of mind for those that are maybe suffering from dementia that have those questions. But this entire experience, living amongst our residents, being there for 3.5 years, covering the night shift, covering the weekend, being the caregiver. I remember one time, Sarah, I remember I had to, I was the morning shift, so I would get, everyone up in the morning. Our daytime crew would come in around 8 o'clock, prepare breakfast, and then take over from 8 to 5 while I would go market. So I got up around 6:30. I got Sarah, I had got myself dressed. I had put on like slacks and the dress shirt, and I was like going in to get Sarah ready for the day, get her a a shower, that morning. And I'll never forget, like Sarah took the shower, the little hose or whatever, and I was like, "Hey, Sarah, can you hold this while I went to go grab a towel?" And she takes it and she sprays it right on me, and she was like, "Oops, did I do that?" She was like, had this little Mississippi accent, and I was like, "You're good, Sarah, you're good." But like just these incredible memories of taking care of people, and being the caregiver and the activities director, and being the cook and the administrator and the paperwork. Like, every job that we had to do, I did. And this really is where all of my learning experiences and everything I know today was rooted in this experience of living amongst our residents for 3.5 years. The one thing I will say is my favorite thing to do every single day was our activities. I absolutely loved that time where I could get everyone out of their rooms and I could engage our residents, in something fun that made them laugh and smile, and then brought a little joy to their lives every single day. And when I think about us venturing into the adult day field later on, a lot of that stemmed from my passion for the engagement piece, the activity piece of what we did. And so when we opened our adult day center, it was like the best of all of the worlds I'd ever, encountered up to that point, because, now we get to spend our entire day focused on having fun and engaging our members, and enjoying our time with them, and making sure that they were having fun and they were, experiencing that same joy. So long story short, that's how we got started. Want to make sure I share that opportunity, or that story with you guys. And these are just some of the great memories that we have from the very beginning. I gotta stay on time. I'm getting stuck in story time here now. All right, adult day is the future of senior care. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So how do we do that, right? I know a lot of us, when we think about how we feel in the adult day field, we feel underfunded, overlooked, misunderstood, unappreciated, but we know who we really are. We know we are the future. We are the superheroes. We are the best kept secret in senior care. And it's time for the world to know who we are. So, regardless of how we feel, regardless of what others might perceive us as, we know deep down who we are and what value we bring to the senior care community. And it is time for us to rise up and make sure that everyone in our community, everyone in the industry knows just how valuable adult day is. So some of the ripple effects of these changing lives, right? Like our members, they're feeling hope, joy, happiness, a sense of purpose. They got friendships, they got connections and a sense of community. We're reducing loneliness, depression. like, and helping to prevent that cognitive decline. For family caregivers, we're that, like, that sense of freedom or hope, peace of mind, strength for them to continue going, to continue caring for their loved ones. For the community, we reduce hospitalizations and ER visits. We prevent long-term care placements. We save money for families. We save lives. We save marriages. We save relationships. For the on the team side, for the healthcare industry professionals that work for us, I mean, what other job in the healthcare industry, is open during the daytime hours, is closed, at night, is, has like an environment where everyone is working together to, help our members experience joy and happiness. Like, there's not a lot of environments where, us as a team can find so much purpose and so much fulfillment in what we're doing. Because in other environments, like, who wants to nurse? Like, when I think about a nursing home, can you imagine working in that environment? It's a depressing environment. When you're here in an adult day center, like, it's uplifting, it's happy. You're changing people's lives in a real way, and it's tangible. So just don't forget how many people you are affecting and the ripple effects that has in your community. A goal for you guys today is to leave, today knowing that, like, hey, there's evidence. I want you to know how to use evidence as a marketing tool, articulate the value of Adult Day to your community, increase the awareness of what we do through storytelling, and become the voice of Adult Day. But first, my question for all of you is, who is your daddy? Who's your daddy? Now, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Have you ever changed someone's life that was declining? They were experiencing weight loss, isolated, lonely, on hospice, becoming weak. They had lost their sense of joy, lack of purpose. They were malnourished. They were more forgetful. They were losing hope. And have you ever turned that person around? Can you think of one person in all of your experiences where, that person who was losing hope and who was declining and becoming weak and had a lack of purpose, now all of a sudden they're thriving, they have new friendships, they're happy, they're healthy, life has meaning to them again, they want to wake up in the morning, they have improved strength, they're full of joy, they're improving cognitively, right? They have this renewed sense of appetite, a strong faith. They have a reason to wake up every single day. I want you all to take a moment and think about that one family and that one member whose life that you changed forever. What is their name? Who are they? What's the story? We all have them. We probably have many of them. We have dozens of them, but there's probably always that one that has left a significant impact on your life. So who's your daddy? Well, this is my daddy. Let me see. Okay, let's go back. So Dottie is someone who joined our Adult Day Club in Port Charlotte. And when she joined, her daughter had walked in for a tour. And at the time, Dottie lived up north with her two sons. And Dottie, like, had gone from being this social butterfly, going to the senior center, had all these friends, was driving everywhere, like living her golden years in retirement, to someone who was no longer eating, was going on hospice, who had basically given up on life. Her sons were like talking to their sister, like, we don't know what to do with mom. Like, she is failing fast. She has, like, completely given up. And this is when Dottie's daughter intervened and brought Dottie back down to Florida, moved Dottie in with her, and then found ActivAge. And when Dottie started with us, I mean, she was super thin, she was super weak, she was cognitively, she just, like, all these pictures that, as I look at, like, this screen with Dottie, like, this is the Dottie I remember, but this is not the Dottie that we met on her first day, you know, and when I think about Dottie, Dottie was probably 6 months away from, like, leaving this earth, and when she was on hospice at this time, this was a very difficult time for her family. And watching Dottie transform, where all of a sudden she became this social butterfly. She ended up being with us for about 4 or 5 years. She was like our ambassador. When a new person would come in for their guest pass, we always made sure to sit them with Dottie, because she was like the welcoming committee. She made sure that everyone felt special, that everyone on their guest pass had the best day ever. Like, Dottie had completely transformed. Being around other people, sitting at the table at lunch, she started to eat again. She started to gain weight. She started to, cognitively improve. She started to physically improve. There was all these changes that were happening in Dottie's life that like were so impactful that I truly believe at the end of the day, we gave Dottie like 4 or 5 years back, quality years of her life that she wouldn't have had. She lived her best days at ActivAge up until the time she passed away. In fact, she was with us on a Friday and it ended up passing away on a Sunday. Like literally was having her best days up until her last breath. And when I think about the impact that we had on Dottie, when I think about the impact that we had on Dottie's daughter and the impact that we had on Dottie's family, and knowing like them knowing that Dottie could come to us and them seeing that improvement in her and the family knowing that now they can go to work and they can continue doing the things that they need to do. They can, continue helping to raise their kids and be there for their own kids while Dottie's like having the time of her life at ActivAge. Like these are impacts that like we just truly don't understand how valuable it is. And but the problem is the world doesn't even realize that this exists. The majority of people don't understand that these are the lives that we're changing, that we have these Dottie stories, and how do we communicate that, in a broader way so that everyone who is caring for a loved one has the opportunity to have an impact on our sorry, I was getting a little sidetracked there, Taylor. I forgot my point there, but I was trying to basically say is this that how do we get the world to know how much of an impact that we can have on people like a Dottie? How can we make sure that every caregiver that's taking care of a loved one knows that we exist, that we're an option for them. We're not an afterthought. We're not just a bridge to long-term care or skilled nursing or assisted living, but we can be the solution that prevents someone from ever having to go into long-term care. So my question for you guys, who's your Dottie? Because we all have a Dottie, and we all have a story that is like Dottie's that we need to share with the world. So understanding your market and or understanding the market size of adult day, because the thing is sometimes we get lost in this little world. We think adult day is a small little world, but the industry we're in, senior care, is huge. It's a massive industry. In the US alone, there's 35,000 home care agencies. Oh yeah, I guess that's on the next slide here. So today in the US, there's about 35,000 home care agencies. There's 28,000 assisted living communities. There's 15,000 nursing homes. And by most stats, there's about 5,000 adult day centers. Maybe it's 3,500, maybe it's 4,000, maybe it's 5,000. In that stat of 5,000, it doesn't say how many are in the basement of a church on Tuesdays and Thursdays versus those that are fully operational Monday through Friday, that are full-fledged adult day centers that are licensed. There's some states that don't even have licensing requirements, right? So at this current moment, adult day makes up such a small percentage of a massive senior care landscape. So what is today 5,000 adult day centers, but what could be tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? There's no reason why we shouldn't have a bigger, spot or position in this overarching adult, senior care landscape. And so how do we get there? What is necessary? What is needed to get to that level? So 3 undeniable facts that can create conviction. So when you think about how you go to your community and you share what you do with others and you share it with those industry professionals and those family caregivers, there's 3 undeniable facts though that are going to create conviction so and you never forget why adult day is the future of senior care. And one of them is cost of care. Like there is no way that the cost of home care or the cost of assisted living or the cost of nursing homes is ever going to go down. It's not possible. When you think about what's happened after COVID too, between insurance costs, the cost of building new buildings, assisted living facilities, the labor costs that's increased. There's so many factors that have gone into this that there is no way to bring the cost of care down. And adult day is the only only affordable long-term care solution left. And so when you look in at the chart into the future, like a massive percentage of the population is going to simply just not be able to afford the alternative options. And I think 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the primary driving force that's going to bring people to us to learn about what adult day is simply the fact that when they called on the assisted living facility and took a tour, or they went to the nursing home, or they reached out to a home care agency, they got sticker shock. They were just shocked at the sheer cost of these services, and that sticker shock is going to cause them to seek alternative options. And we want them to know that we are not just an alternative; like we are the solution. They just don't know about it yet. Number two, households are squeezed. You get this rising cost of living. 20, what's interesting to me, and one of the most interesting stats is in 1980, multi-generational housing was at the lowest point. And if you think about the 80s, this is when, you know, the American dream was to own your own home. This is when families separated and kids left the home and they moved to another state and they started pursuing their own careers. This is that period of time where you know like everyone was pursuing that American dream of owning their own home. But today, that is no longer the American dream. you know a starter home just even 2, 3, 4 years ago, a 3 bedroom, 2 bath starter home was like 180 to 250,000. Today it's 500,000. Like the number of kids or young adults that are going to be graduating college, entering the world, the number of those folks that are going to be entering that working world are not going to be able to afford their own homes. They're going to have to move back in with mom and dad. And the seniors who are going to need care, a lot of those may not have that pension that the greatest generation had. They may not have those additional financial resources, and so what's going to happen is you're going to have moms and dads moving back in with their adult children. You're going to have young, adults, moving in with their children. And we're going to have like this multi-generational household that went from at its low 12% to someday 30%, 36%. I know we just crossed 20% here recently, and it's continuing to rise, and cost of living is a massive factor. So adult day relieves that pressure at home, giving those family caregivers space to breathe, to go to work, to be a parent. And this again is another like fact that is backing up the primary need for adult day being a primary solution, not just an alternative one. Seniors outpacing family support. See, my mother-in-law is like one of 9 kids. That doesn't exist today. The number of family members in a family unit is decreasing, who are going to help be able to offset and provide that support or care for loved ones. So as this caregiver support ratio continues to decline and the senior population increases, you know there's just fewer and fewer family members in a family unit that can care for their loved one. So if previously you had a 7-to-1 ratio of a family member that could care for a loved one, and now we're going to 4-to-1 by say 2030, that rising demand and that shrinking caregiver support ratio is going to increase the need for daytime support. Because out of 7, you might have one family member that's retired or has been financially successful enough that they could take the time off to focus on mom or dad. But maybe out of 4, you may not have as many. Those 4 people may be working families raising their kids, both moms and dads working full-time jobs to try to make ends meet. And there's going to be fewer and fewer people that can truly support the needs of our growing senior population. So just remember that if today you feel like lead flow is slow, if today your census is not where you would like it to be, if you're not growing at the pace that you would hope to, just know that deep down there's 3 concrete facts. These are 3 pieces of evidence to create conviction to not give up and to continue going forward, because there will be a day that you will not have to worry about leads. You will not have to worry about growth. It will happen automatically. But between now and that day, we have to raise that awareness. We have to continue to beat that drum, even though we think we've told everyone in our community. Just know that you haven't yet. That you got to keep pressing forward, that we have to create this movement to truly, grow the awareness of adult day. And adult day is number one problem. I've always felt this way when people are like, "Hey, so what's the one drawback about adult day?" In my opinion, operations compared to assisted living or home care, it's easy. Making people happy, it's easy. You managing your team, it's easy. When you think about your number one problem, it's just simply lack of awareness. I need more people to know what adult day is and to know how to access it and to know the benefits of adult day and how important it is in the care continuum. But people don't know what they want until you show it to them, right? If someone's never experienced adult day, they don't even know they don't know they want it. They don't know they need it. They don't even know that it exists. They have to see it first. We have to get more and more people through our doors to experience it, to see it for themselves. People that may not even be caring for a loved one, but just them having a better understanding of it is going to be, that's one more person out there that can be an advocate for the services that we provide. I always find this to be an interesting stat because when you think about search volume, um, between the kind of like the three categories, or home care and assisted living being a massive category in the senior care space, in the long-term care space, this is search volume from 2004 to today between home care, assisted living, and adult day. Clearly, you can see home care has the highest search volume of these three. Assisted living's right there with it. And adult day looks like it's flatline. And so what we got to think about is that the reason why adult day search volume is so low is because people don't know to search for it. Most people know that someone can come into the house and take care of my mom and dad. Most people know there's a place to go. They may not know if it's assisted living, memory care, nursing home. They may not know the appropriate terminology, but they know it's a common just idea that mom can go somewhere to live full time, or we can bring someone into the house. It is not common for people to just know that there's a place for them to go during the day. I can't tell you how many times I tell people what we do, and they're like, "Oh, so how many beds do you have?" We don't have any beds. There's no beds here. It's daytime. They're just here for the day, you know. And they're like, "So they don't sleep overnight?" No, they don't sleep overnight. There's no beds. It's like no. We're like, and I always hate doing this, but sometimes when you're talking to someone, it's the only way to get them to understand what you do. You're like, it's kind of like childcare, but for your elderly parents. Like, oh, I'm like, I hate even making that reference to what it is, but it's like the only thing that sometimes people understand when you can finally share that with them, right? So just know that we have to beat the drum so loud that that little yellow line that looks like a flat line on a heart meter chart, like we got to make that line, we got to give it a little boost. We all got to beat that drum so hard that that yellow line starts to creep up and you can start to see some growth in the search. But the only reason more people would search for it is if more people know about it. And that's like a network effect that takes place when we're out there talking to people in our community and we're telling other people and we're being passionate about this thing that we love and that we are so passionate about. Let's hear. So my question for a lot of you guys, and I know I can't maybe get the answer on this, but I would be curious if they were going to poll it. I don't know, but who here in this group has reached their pre-COVID census? So if you were open, operating pre-COVID, you know, who here has reached it? Because a lot of people I talk to still have not reached it. They're close, but they haven't reached their pre-COVID census. I just want you to know you're not alone, and here is why. There is a reason. If you look at this chart, this is specifically just the adult day search volume for just the term adult day care. And it's literally taken 5 years for that search volume to reach the pre-COVID level. So when you think about, the last 5 years and the number of inquiry, like where you were census wise and where you were lead flow wise prior to COVID versus today, it's taken almost 5 years for all that search volume to get back to a place that we are now starting to like be at where we were from a search volume perspective back pre-COVID. The reason behind this, I don't know. My team and I try to figure this out every single day. This is like, I'm like, what is this mystery here? All I can say is that if anything, there's hope. Okay, we're getting out of this slump. We are in the process of getting closer to where search volumes were pre-COVID, and for those that are struggling or wondering why, or they think it's you think it's you, it's not all you. It's partly this, but there are things that you can do to improve upon generating more awareness. All right, so now I gotta speed things up because we're already 30 minutes in here, Taylor. All right. Okay.
You have some,
So
it looks like 50% said not yet, 31 not applicable, 19 yes so far of
you know,
this.
I mean, but like if you think about it, like, you know, at least 50% of people are not yet. And that's a big chunk, right? Like so that's and I always love kind of hearing from people and getting feedback because I know some centers are doing better, and sometimes it depends on the market. It depends on if you're a Medicaid funded center. It depends on a lot of variables there. But it is interesting. But I think that search volume chart has a lot to do with it too. It helps provide some understanding as to why you're not there yet. Becoming a better storyteller to increase awareness, right? Everything starts with awareness. We have to create awareness. Awareness has to be the primary like thing that we do to so we can generate interest, so we can go through this kind of this is what our pipeline looks like, right? We have to start at generating awareness. That's the only way to increase the lead flow, to increase the search volume. And so what are things you can do? Got to know your audience, right? When you think about the type of adult day center you are, it's important for you to know your audience and for you to have personas that when you're thinking about, okay, what audience am I speaking to? What's the persona that I need, for them to understand? So you have these two primary audiences: your adult children caring for aging parents, spouses caring for their husband or wife, independent seniors looking for socialization or connection, and your referral partners. And so those personas, right? You have the stressed out daughter, juggling kids, career, family, seeking safety and peace of mind. You got the exhausted spouse, who they're exhausted, they're isolated, they're burned out, they're just seeking a break. And you have the case manager that's looking for safe, reliable, affordable care options, right? And so how do you speak to these different personas? What story are you telling them? Are you telling them a story that relates to their situation? Because if you're talking to the stressed out daughter, what their needs are and what they want out of this, what they need might be different than the exhausted spouse. And the case manager might be looking at this thing completely differently as well. So know who your audience is and know what story to tell those audiences. This is an example of success stories that we have as part of our information packet. The little example to the right there. In this particular case, in this success story, we're talking about a mother-daughter combo and what that journey looked like for them. And so for you, when you think about the story you have to tell, you should always have a story in your back pocket that relates to the adult child taking care of mom and dad, to the spouse taking care of their loved one, to the case manager, the referral partner. Like what's that little story you can pull out of your back pocket that you can repeat quickly and share with them, And this is an example of a mother-daughter combo. So when we're talking to an adult child in a similar situation, we can talk through the journey that they might go through, or what their needs are, or what hesitation their loved one had when they first came, but how we overcame that, and what the positive outcomes were from trusting the process. So when you think about the Dottie framework, who's your Dottie? When you think about storytelling, define the person, who are they? What is their name? Outline the struggle. What challenge, is that family facing? So when you're talking to someone, use a name. It doesn't have to be the name of the person, that the story is about. Use a fictitious name, but make it relatable. You want people to feel and know and understand, who this person was and what their struggle was, and what challenge was the family facing, and then, how did what changed, or how did they find you? What transformation, what highlight, that life-changing outcome that they had. Use the story to connect with others, and elevate the message by tying it back to your mission and what you stand for. The storytelling tips, picture first. Um, sorry, a little pop-up came on thing. Picture first, pitch later, right? So before writing any post, whether you're writing a post on social media, what photo do I have that shows the story? What is the person feeling? And what will a family caregiver feel when they read this? Always start with the story, not the service. So you don't want to, hey, we provide med management, we provide this, we provide that. No, like people want to hear stories. Stories sell better. Stories do better with engagement. Anytime you go to someone's, like, say you go to a franchise page of a home care agency or assisted living, and they have all these like standard like marketing copy, and it's like, here's our services and here's 6 tips, and you look at the engagement and there's none. But, if you say, "Hey, meet Ray. He's from Syracuse, and he always makes people laugh," and you go on with the story about Ray, you're gonna get more engagement from something like that versus, we provide social engagement, hot meals and caregiver respite, or like just think about as you post on social media, as you talk in person, as you go, say, to a networking event and everyone goes around the table and they have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and what they do. Instead of saying, "Hey, we are an adult day center and we do this, this, and this," what if you said, "Hey, this is who we are, and let me tell you a story about Ray. Let me tell you a story about Bob. Let me tell you about my Dottie. Let me tell you about what happened last week." Like that's going to captivate that networking group in a much bigger way. They're going to tune in instead of tuning you out. They're going to listen and they're going to see how firsthand you had an impact on this family caregiver and the member who's attending. And for them, it's going to create a better word picture of what it is that you do versus anything you could say in any of your descriptive language about what adult day is or what your services you offer. So you have to understand the storytelling is a key part to generating awareness. Awareness is not lead gen. You're not trying to sell anyone. You're just telling. So don't sell, just tell. Use real photos, use Facebook Live, tag friends and family, collaborate with community partners. In each of these 3 examples, they're all stories, and you can see how the engagement in these 3 examples, really, is much greater than anything that we could have put if we were just like listing our services or had a graphic. Meet April. She's connected in the community. She's our new marketing director. When she started with us, like, give her a little shout out. Things, who she is, what is she about, what does she stand for? Hey, when we were going through the process of opening our adult day center, like, you we had passed our survey. Share that. Hey, we passed our survey. Here's the obstacle we overcame. Now we're deficiency free. Like, people want to celebrate with you, but they're like, you got to bring them along the journey so they can be part of the story. There's another gentleman in the top right corner here, and a younger gentleman uh, who had a stroke, and he's, I think, in his early 50s, late 40s. Still has 2 young children at home. The wife is taking care of him. And in this video that we had shared, it was a story about you know what happened to him, and like where his wife was at and what she needed, and the 2 young kids at home. But like, look at the progress he's made. Like, when he came to us, he was here, and now he's up dancing and he's smiling and he's enjoying himself. Like, we're making improvements. This is a big deal. We do this every day, but we don't necessarily communicate it in our social media or in when we're talking to our referral partners as much as we should. So just understand that storytelling is way more important than selling or sharing the services that you have to offer. One of the things too is, quick tip, when it comes to the calendar, we put a lot of emphasis on making beautiful calendars. You know, like, this is the thing that, families get every month and they look at, and they're analyzing, and they're trying to see, like, what things would my husband or my wife or my mom or dad like, and when they're first starting out, they may be looking at each of those time blocks and saying, okay, what are we doing on this day, or when's exercise, or whatever the case might be. But create a calendar that, like, is beautiful, that's like a showpiece. We put a member on each of our calendars, like, as if, like, we make them cover girls and cover guys. It's like a little magazine cover, right? This is a memento that their family can hold up, that their family can share on social media and celebrate. So just know that like this is one way to gain attention. It's your biggest marketing piece. Make it a bigger deal. Don't just print off that little like thing that you built in Microsoft Word on chintzy little paper that easily crinkles up. Like make this something worthy of keeping or framing or putting up on the refrigerator. We do weekly themes, so to keep things fresh at our place, we have every month we have two different themes. So for instance, last month we came out of our guac and roll. I don't know if you can see that or not. So we had our Route 66 theme, but the first half of the month was guac and roll, which was had to do with the Cinco de Mayo, and then the last half of the month was Route 66. And so like our decorations, the themes, some of the activities that we're doing, some of the cooking demonstrations that we're doing are related to those themes. This coming month, we're doing the Roaring 20s in the first half of the month, and then we're doing I think Savannah Adventures, which is kind of a jungle theme in the second half of the month. So again, the balloons change. We have different, every single week, there's going to be at least one day where we have a theme day where we all dress up in something different that's related to that theme. But get your members, your team, your environment, like, to feel like those themes and create something fresh, for your members. But what's nice about this too is it's something unique to talk about. It's one more reason, a family member might be encouraged to bring their loved one on another day that they wouldn't have previously, and it makes for great like marketing and social media display because the community is seeing all these different things that you're doing for your members every 2 weeks. Make sure that like when you think about your brand material that like when people see the brand, they recognize it. The colors are the same, the text styles are the same. Like, as we're generating awareness, like we have to like give something to people that like they remember. Like if they see that rat card, in the doctor's office, does it look similar to the other marketing material that you're putting out there? Does it look similar, to the van that you might have wrapped, or are they different fonts, different designers? Like you want to create a cohesive brand so no matter where you are as you're generating this awareness, people see your color schemes and the text and the styling of whatever your marketing is, and they immediately know that it's you, and they immediately associate Adult Day with your brand, because again, not only is this going to help you and your brand, but it's also going to help raise the awareness of Adult Day if there's some consistency to what you're putting out there. Conversion quick tips. Oh my gosh, we're like so far past time and I want to do Q&A, Taylor. So, all right, reduce friction. So eliminate pain points, paperwork, communication, extensive assessments, whatever you can do manually on your end to reduce the friction from the family of having to do more work to get started. Like think about that. One of the biggest things that was a massive game changer for us is we implemented texting, and when we added texting capabilities, to our conversations with families, it significantly improved communication. It became way more efficient. We had more leads that were more willing to speak with us because we were texting them instead of calling them. And you're calling, leaving a voicemail. They're calling you back. You miss their call. You call them back. They finally give up. With texting, you can immediately get information to and from a new lead, to and from families. So it's just a more efficient way. But we had a 60% increases in responses from our new leads by just implementing texting alone. Set expectations. I always say, like, when families start with us, like, they're excited. There's a lot of hope. This is going to work. And then they meet this resistance from their loved one because their loved one may not want to be there. They may not want to go for their first day, until they experience it. And maybe they come for their guest pass and they have a great day and they have an awesome time. We have all these pictures and amazing memories, but they come back for their first paid day and all of a sudden they forgot everything that, all that fun they had. And the family's having to go through this like experience again of having to convince them and get past this resistance. And so you got to help families understand that this is part of the journey. Like you're going to go through this resistance period. It could be a week, 2 weeks, it could be a month, but the only way to overcome the resistance is to create consistency. Let's commit to a schedule. Let's give ourselves 30 days. We know it's going to be harder in the beginning, but there is like this light at the end of the tunnel, and we just got to get through that. And then you're going to build trust with the families. Like, their loved ones going to come home and say, "Oh yeah, we didn't do anything. Oh, we didn't eat this. Oh, we didn't do that." And but you got to build trust in the beginning by sharing proof of all the stuff that they did do and all the things, and all the the fun that they were having. So you're sending photos and pictures and videos over those first 30 days, and you're building trust with that family. So at some point in time, they come to realize that their loved one may not remember any of the things that they did that day, but they know their loved one was having a great time because that you built trust with that family, and they trust that what you're doing and the services you're providing or the activities you have that day are things that they're enjoying, and they're engaged in those things. So become the voice of the adult day. If we don't tell our story, someone else will, or worse, no one will. So do it for Dottie. Who's your Dottie? Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So the 33 people that are on this call today, the 3,500 or 5,000 adult day centers that exist in the USA today, like, it is a small group of people, but I know you guys are committed. You guys want, together, if we come together and we continue to share this message and raise awareness and, unite on just how important the services we have to offer are, like, we will change the world. And, having partners like StoriiCare that believe in the same message, that like they're all in and committed to it. I mean, you think about all the softwares that exist today and in the adult day space, and they all came out of another industry, and they're like, oh, we'll just add adult day to it. StoriiCare, like, was founded on and like was built on the adult day industry first. Like, that's their first priority. And so StoriiCare is committed to this, and all I could say is the 32 people on this call, like, you guys got to be committed to this too. Like, we have to come together, unite, and in order for us to create change, we have to all generate more awareness. We have to all be passionate about what we do. We have to remember that even though we think we've told everyone in our community, we have not. Adult Day is the future of senior care. Join the movement, and together we will change the world. And I don't know, I put this on there. I don't know if I'm supposed to do, Taylor, but if anyone wanted to do a one-on-one coaching call for StoriiCare, I was gonna give everyone $100 off, and they can use code story. But long story short, let's get into Q&A, my favorite part.
Yes. Okay. So we have a question from Kevin. Do you offer a ride service to your daycare?
Yeah, so we think transportation is very important. So we have transportation as like a staple, for what we do. So for us, uh, when we think about transportation, coming to and from our center, I think of, like, where we are today with Uber, DoorDash, Amazon. Like, everything is so convenient. It just comes to us. Whatever we want, you hit a button and it comes to us. I think for us on the adult day front, we have to think of ourselves as like, how can we become more convenient to our families? And adding transportation is a critical element of being convenient. And I think that it'll become even more important, like, in the years to come. So even though it's a big lift, it is an expense. It's a logistically challenging thing to do. I think it's essential. And, like, I've always told our team, like, no matter how hard this gets, like, we just have to figure it out. We have to, transportation is a key component to operating a successful adult day center.
Okay, great. Sharing and marketing on social media. How do you navigate HIPAA and get around all of that?
So on the HIPAA side, I mean, we don't really talk too much about medical conditions. I would say that, we have a pretty extensive, like, photo and video consent form that is built into all of our agreements. So for the most part, everyone is signing off on that video and photo consent. And if there is someone that it has, like, chooses not to participate in that, what we do is we have different colored lanyards, and we have an orange lanyard if someone cannot be put into photos or videos online. And so that orange lanyard, like, when we're taking photos of our members, if that's our way of, when we're going through all of our photos and videos and we're posting them, we're ensuring that, like, no one in those photos or videos has that orange lanyard. Otherwise, everyone else has given us that consent to share their stories, their photos, and their videos.
Mhm. We see that a lot with StoriiCare too, people being grouped in a no consent group so staff can easily see and identify who can't be. Um,
And the lanyard was our like visual way. 'Cause, like for a while, we had to like go reference our list, and
yeah.
so like that little lanyard hack that we did was a quick way that
Mhm.
like when you're going through your photos, it was easy to eliminate ones if they were accidentally taken of someone.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm gonna kind of group these two together. How, like, where'd you get the funding for this, or how, with limited time and staff and resources, can you kind of create these magical themes and things like that? Or maybe you have some
Yeah,
advice. You're working with a tight staff ratio and budget. Maybe what are some ideas?
yeah. So I mean, I would say our activity budget on like decor and like our monthly when we do our monthly planning, I don't think it's like like if I remember correctly, and I think our budget for like each month for the theme type stuff we're doing is around $300, for our activity directors. Now there's other things. I'm not. When I say $300, I'm not including or talking about like our live music that we might do, or things that we might bring in, that are adding to that activity thing. But when I think about like the decor, and I think about the crafts and the things that we're going to be doing for those activities, like we're about $300 a month. So I don't know if like that's out of the question for some, or if maybe that provides some relief, like there are some ways that we can find more affordable ways. I mean, we use balloon arches and balloon towers as like our biggest way to create a big, bang for our buck, where like you can do a lot with them. Now, obviously, not everyone has the skill set maybe to put those together, but I will say that like over the years, like that has been the balloon towers and balloon arches have been a big way that we can, create this theme. We also use a lot of times, you know, um, they'll have those backdrops, so we'll use like backdrops as like the way to like cover a wall that might, and then we'll put elements around it, but that could help kind of again to accentuate that theme. We always do centerpieces, but a lot of times like our centerpieces, you know if done well, you're not buying a bunch of new stuff. Like you're sourcing what might be in your activity room to create these centerpieces that might tie to that theme. The first year of going, opening an adult day center, I would say that we have like our budget that we're going to, and then there's like that layer on top for the stuff that we've never purchased before, but that we'll be able to use year after year after year. When I think about like our Port Charlotte location, like we have so much stuff from like previous years that we can recycle, and so just making sure that that stuff is organized well and stored properly so that we can reuse those things in the future, for some of the decor. But balloons are an easy way. The other thing we do is, in our center we have lights that kind of hang from side to side, and we can hang like you know, those little flags that will,
Mhm.
and we basically hang them from the lights. But that's another way to kind of add a lot of impact to the space, um, without costing a lot of money too. And so things that might hang from those lights to kind of again just kind of, like I know our Route 66 theme, like as part of our balloon arches and stuff, like we had tires that were balloons that we blew up that went in the balloon arches. We had these little like pop-up little fuel cans, that like were kind of part of the centerpieces, and they were just like little paper ones that like probably came in a flat sheet. You opened them up and they kind of turned into little fuel cans, and and then we had like the checker flags hanging from our lights in the ceiling, and like little tires or car things hanging down from that. So you know I feel like there's ways to do it in an affordable fashion, but it's just being creative.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We're getting a few people asking, like, who funds your program? So could you maybe talk about your payment model a bit?
So we're primarily private pay. We do accept VA, and we have in our Port Charlotte location some Medicaid. In Florida, Medicaid reimbursement is not as attractive as some other states. So it's not a big focus area of ours. So the majority of our members being private pay. I mean, we're sitting at closer to an average of about $110 to $120 per day that someone is spending with us, and so um, the private pay model has always worked kind of well for us, and that's really how we started. And then we dipped our toes in Medicaid and realized that that's not an area that we want to focus in the Florida market, just because we couldn't do all the things we do for our members. If we were entirely Medicaid funded in the state of Florida. But again, I know other states, you're going to go into, and those states are going to be really like their Medicaid funding is great. And now VA has been a great partner for us as well. They pay at a higher rate than our Medicaid does here. And in Port Charlotte, we're probably about 75% private pay, about 15% VA, and then the remainder Medicaid. And then in Sarasota, we're probably right around 90% private pay and 10% VA.
Okay, thank you. What percentage of your seniors like live alone versus ASL or independent living?
I'd say the majority of them are going to live with a family member. So what's interesting is in Port Charlotte, we have about 64% of our members are moms and dads of adult, living with their adult children. And then the remainder are spouses, that are, taking care of their loved one. And then it's interesting because in Sarasota, we were kind of using those stats as like kind of like our, guide for what we thought Sarasota would be. And then it flipped in Sarasota. In Sarasota, we were like 80% spouses, and then a handful, like only like about 20% of adult children caring for their mom and dad. So we're still kind of like learning what the Sarasota market is going to be, but we just, for whatever reason, there's way more spouses here in Sarasota that are taking care of their mom and dad. The handful of people that live in assisted living or independent living that come to us, it's always been a super small percentage. Like I can think of like in Sarasota right now, just because I know our members' home environment's better here because I'm spending more time here. I think we only have like two people that live in assisted living. The rest are all with family.
Okay. Do you require your activity directors to be credentialed, or how do you address individual goals in mind? Might need clarification on that, but maybe you can answer the first part of it.
Yeah. So my number one credential for an activity director is like
A
um,
super fun person.
I-
No.
well, like entertainment. Like, are they an entertainer? Like, can they can like you could have the most credentialed person with the biggest pedigree that went to all those schools and knows all this stuff, but if my activity director can't get out there and be silly and entertain our members, then they're the wrong activity director for us. Because the way our model works is like we have behind the scenes, there's a person creating our calendar and planning the future themes and handling all the planning side of it. And I've never known like a great, like your best entertainers are not going to be your best activity planners. And
Hmm.
I think what happens a lot of times especially in assisted living, is assisted living facilities will hire activity directors and just like, all right, you got to plan, you got to entertain, you got to, handle all the vendors and all that stuff. Like finding an activity director that's great in all three of those areas, like management and organization, entertaining your members, and then planning future activities and putting the calendar together and all that stuff. Like if you could find an activity director with all three of those skill sets and they're great in all of them, like that's almost unheard of. Like that is a unicorn. So the way we look at it is like, you know, when we think about our environment, our activity director should really be an entertainer first. Like they're best when they're among people and they're like the star of the show. They're the
Yeah.
ones keeping everyone engaged, making people laugh and smile, and like truly bringing the energy and the excitement to the day.
Hmm.
But some of them are going to be good planners and decorators and whatever, but the majority of them, like their strength is not going to be sitting down in front of a computer putting a plan together for the next 90 days. So behind the scenes, we have someone that does that separately, and our director and that other person work on the planning side of it and the operation side of what needs to be ordered and what do we need to have in place and what food demonstrations are going along with that, and what vendors need to be thought through to come in for those things, and like so that's happening separate, and then our
Mhm.
activity directors are literally getting this like playbook that's like been done for them. Now they come in once a month and they have a brainstorming session with us to like help us brainstorm into the future, but then the execution of the planning happens by someone else.
Right. Catering to people's skill sets. So
Yeah.
that's key.
And then everyone on our care team, because when we think about our care team who works in this environment, I always tell like, when they come, when they're interviewing or we're having that conversation is, you know, 70 to 80% of that care team's role every single day is essentially activities assistant. And then 20, 30% is the actual care side of it.
Hmm.
So it's important for them to understand that too, because we'll have our activity director who's like the star of the show and the lead entertainer, but every single person on the care team is responsible for helping her pull off those activities successfully. So that means making sure people are in the right spot, to do that activity, or ensuring that they're getting things set up for the next activity. Like they're part of the activity process as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So people's kind of roles sometimes bleed over. You're
Yeah,
not.
for us, like our care team is like truly a hybrid. Like they
Mhm.
they have to be able to do both. And we last thing we want for them to do is like, oh well, that's the activity director's job. No, no, like you are activities, like that is 70, 80% of your role. And
Mhm.
then like the other 20, 30% is going to be like the toileting and showers and those other things that we're doing from the care perspective. But that's not like when you think about a block of time and how they're spending it every day, it's not toileting and showers and transferring, it's activities.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Uh, we're a little over time. Should I do one last question or do you need to hop off?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Taylor.
Okay, okay. Uh, so really the last couple of questions are like, do you have a sliding scale and do members attend a full day or can they do a half day? Do you do an hourly rate? So
Yeah,
people
so we
understand
yeah,
price.
so like I feel like it's a little uncommon, and I think I know with you guys, Taylor and Cameron's help, I mean, it's made it a little bit easier. But we are hourly. We charge hourly, so we don't have a sliding scale, and we don't have to worry about half day, full day, or whatever. Like the way our model works is, families are basically paying for whatever hours they use, and so people clock in and they clock out, and everything's rounded to 15-minute increments. So if they came, they might be 6.5 hours, or 6.25 hours, or 6.75 hours, or whatever the case might be. But it is an hourly rate, and that gives families that flexibility where if they have a certain budget and they can only afford X, like they can meet that budget, but they're kind of controlling how long they're coming. And then it allows us to like share with families our rates in a way that's more digestible, than like a full day rate.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Chris, so
But
much.
I will say this there. Just for anyone that like is like, oh, I want to do hourly, like just
Yeah.
hourly is a logistical nightmare when it comes to billing. So like we do it, but I'm not saying it's the way. I'm just saying that's the way we do it. We're kind of are stuck here because we've been doing it that way forever. But I'm not saying it's the best way. Like there's days where I'm like, like a day rate would be a heck of a lot easier than trying to, calculate all those hours. And I know StoriiCare knows our pain points there for sure.
Yes. And we're always encouraging people to bill in advance if you can manage that, because then you're not chasing your money.
Uh,
Um,
and, and we and we keep payment authorizations on file for everyone.
mhm.
So even our Medicaid clients, if someone comes on board, like everyone has to have a payment authorization on file. In those one-off cases where someone's like, I'm not giving you, like, and they're gonna like fight us on it. We're like, okay, fine. But it's very rare. If we require it, like 99% of people are, we have a payment authorization on file. Because if someone's on Medicaid and they come in, they get their hair done, or they have they don't get their nails done someday, or like we don't want to chase around all that extra that money. Or same thing with, we do our hourly billing every week, and when we do that, we're only about 5 to 7 days behind whatever their usage was. But that payment's on file, so it's easy to just charge the credit card or their uh, you know, ACH, because it's already there, it's on file. It's built into the system, so we're not chasing it as much.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, for those of you attending, if you want to take advantage of Kris's offer for the $100 off a consult, there are links to his website, LinkedIn, YouTube page. All of that is in the chat. But of course, you can reach out to him directly via email or probably on one of your social media channels. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
and
And the coaching, and just for people who know, like, the coaching calls, like, it's literally all about you. We spend 1 hour, we deep dive on whatever issue that you might have, and I can give you the recording of it. But the idea is, like, whatever pain point you're going through, is so the coaching calls are not like a consulting program. It's just, you're just paying for that call, and like whatever pain point you might have, or whatever issue you're trying to overcome, or whatever is the most pressing need at that moment. Like, we're going to cover that. We'll go through that together. My goal is that you leave there, after an hour of that conversation, and you have a plan to go solve that problem or to overcome that obstacle.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, thanks
Some
everybody for
girl.
joining today. Chris, thank you so much. A recording of the webinar will be sent to everyone via email. So if you need to go back and reference anything, you'll have it. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Taylor, you guys are awesome. StoriiCare, you're the best. Cameron, if you're still there somewhere, we love you, buddy. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.